Welcome back. Welcome to part 2 of New Comics, bitch. For this week, the week of the 20th of April. So our next comic is Batman 709. Again, continuing the story of, the really weird, fucked up story of the new Azrael and his crisis of faith and the sins of Dick Grayson's past. Essentially, I was kind of interested in what was going on a lot more than I was in the first one, because I'm just like, what the fuck, man? It's like, why is why in this particular title is Batman fighting all the weird, fucked up, like supernatural or superhuman, just bizarro threats that are out there, not the actual character of Bizarro, just using that as an expression. But, we've got, basically, Azrael has chosen, Catwoman, Red Robin, and Batman as the souls of Gotham City, and if they cannot pass their tests of purity, then all of Gotham is fucked. They're going to destroy the whole thing. So this all goes back to basically what Dick's sin is. What Dick Grayson's sin is, it harkens back to when he was just a kid, and there was another young trapeze artist who was in the Haley Circus, who they nicknamed the Prodigy, he was better than young Dick was. So, one night while they were in some small town, this kid, the Prodigy, kind of made some time with one of the local females there, and summarily got his ass kicked by her boyfriend and like 10 of his friends. And what we find out is that Dick, as a young kid, did nothing but watch. He was, 9, 10 years old? And it was something that he seemed to always kind of feel bad about. Well, at least, now that he's remembering it, he feels bad about it. But he didn't really, he could, he said that he could have warned, this kid, but instead he watched and beat the living shit out of him. And of course he can, this young kid, the Prodigy could never do the trapeze again, so that's his big sin and everything like that. And so he kind of turns the tables on Azrael and finds out what Azrael's big sin is, and is that what he's actually doing is not the calling of God, but that he's actually been manipulated by Ra's al Ghul into destroying Gotham, and that would eventually lead to something that would spiral out of control and essentially into, starting with, complete, so with the terrorist attacks, so the U.S. would be forced to retaliate, which increased terror attacks, and then, then the chain reaction just basically, the chain of dominoes just starts to fall, and then of course it leads to complete global destruction, in which only a few will survive. Then Ra's al Ghul will have his, utopia of, a human-free Earth that can be reshaped in his image. Well, now that's where it becomes interesting. Once it gets out of all this, kind of highfalutin, supernatural mumbo-jumbo shit, to find out that this, that Ra's is still very much in play here, as a character and as somebody who is very important in the existence of Batman's life. He's actually taken to calling Dick the young detective, which I think is kind of cool. But, then that's good. So this was a much better issue. This is, starting to get more on board with the kind of Batman that I want to see on a more regular basis. Because it's just more kind of personal stories. Not necessarily personal stories, but just something that's a little bit more down to earth, but still has that element of impending doom from from a major player, someone like Ra's al Ghul. So happy with that. David Hine does a decent job writing this. Even though I think he knows that it's kind of weird what he's doing. And Guillaume March, he's a really terrific artist. So there's a lot of great art in this issue as well. So good stuff. Now moving on to the great stuff, because Robert Kirkman is one of the strongest creators in comics right now, and that's just truth. That's like universal truth, man. He does so much great stuff. He's got so many titles out right now. It seems like, and he's worked on so many different titles now. So we're gonna move on to Invincible number 79. Now I started getting into this about a month ago. Started getting into Invincible about a month ago, and then I had to add it to my pull list almost immediately as soon as I was able to catch up, because this is just truly a great fucking comic. It starts as kind of being maybe a little tongue-in-cheeky, back in the very early issues, the first couple issues, starts being fun, maybe kind of a little bit of a take on, kind of a Spider-Man-like, character, a young superhero who, is kind of having fun with his powers, but also, and then of course his father turns out to be, anyway, if you know Invincible, you know the history. So I'm not going to bother getting too much into that. So last issue we were left with the aftermath of the Viltrumite War, where he's, where Invincible and his dad essentially have come back to Earth, and he's he's finally seeing his mom again for the first time. He's finally seeing Adam Eve again for the first time. And of course, Adam Eve, Samantha, has been hiding a pretty massive secret from him. And just doesn't really know what to do about it. Now, in this particular issue, now, what happened in the last issue also that was interesting is that Samantha seemed to have gained a lot of inexplicable weight. If I'm missing something, fans of Invincible, please let me know. Because, I went back and I reread a lot of recent issues of this comic, and I didn't see anything to explain this kind of sudden, weight gain. And it's not like she's, like, fat. She's just bigger than she was. She's not like kind of, this super sexy kind of stick figure. She's more like a normal, healthy girl. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. In fact, I really like that. And there's some funny stuff with with her new costume, and she asked, does this skirt make my butt look bigger and stuff like that. It's just kind of funny, but then it gets really serious really fast, and becomes totally heartbreaking, really, because this is what Kirkman does, is that he sets you up for something that's kind of fun, and then he pulls the rug right the fuck out from under you. And that's what he's done all along with Invincible, and which is why I love the shit out of Invincible. Again, Ryan Ottley doing some great art. If you have not been reading Invincible and you like superhero comics, and you like Robert Kirkman, which you should, you need to start getting Invincible. Just get into it, man. However you need to, just start getting into it. Because this is a fucking great book. And this is a great issue of a great book. we'll be right back with the comic book of the week.